Smoke curls from the altar, thick and acrid, carrying the stench of forbidden flesh. You hear the laughter first harsh, foreign voices echoing off stone walls that once held only prayers. Then the cries, muffled but piercing, as shadows move in the holy places where no unclean foot should tread. A young woman, her robes torn, is dragged toward the inner court, her eyes wide with terror. Around her, soldiers jeer, their hands gripping more victims lined up in the flickering torchlight. The temple, heart of a nation, pulses with violation. But this night, something shifts. A whisper spreads among the watchers outside the gates. Resistance stirs, and what began as an order from a distant throne would ignite a fire no empire could quench. What you're about to hear involves systematic persecution, including forced defilement and acts of sexual violence against the innocent. These events are drawn from ancient accounts, grim but real. We focus on the machinery behind it all, not the horror for its own sake. If it weighs too heavy, step away, no judgment here. For those pressing on, remember, this is about understanding how power twists into erasure and how the erased fight back. This wasn't random cruelty. This was a calculated strike at the soul of a people. In the 2nd century before the Common Era, the Seleucid Empire sprawled across vast lands, from the Mediterranean to the edges of Persia. Antiochus Epiphanes, its king, saw himself as a god made flesh, a unifier of cultures under Greek ideals. But in Judea, a small province clinging to ancient laws, he faced a stubborn holdout. The Jews, with their one god and strict codes, resisted the blend of Hellenism. He pushed gymnasiums, Greek gods, uncovered bodies in public games. What started as cultural pressure boiled into outright war on their faith. The temple in Jerusalem, symbol of their covenant, became ground zero. Antiochus didn't just plunder it, he remade it into a tool of domination, ordering acts that shattered taboos and broke spirits. Historians debate the exact scale, but the intent was clear: erase their identity, one violation at a time. Why does this echo now? Because systems like his bureaucracies of control, enforced assimilation, still lurk in shadows today. This story uncovers how one man's hubris sparked a revolt that saved a culture, reminding us that even gods fall. Picture the empire first, a patchwork of conquered lands stitched together by Alexander the Great's legacy. By the time Antiochus claimed the throne around 175 BCE, the Seleucids ruled a realm stretching from Syria to Iran, a mix of Greeks, Persians, and locals bound by Greek language and customs. But cracks showed. Rome loomed in the west, nibbling at borders. Egypt, under the Ptolemies, rivaled for power in the south. Judea sat in the middle, a buffer zone, its people paying tribute but holding fast to their temple and laws. The air hummed with tension, rumors of uprisings, shifting alliances. Antiochus, needing funds for his wars, eyed the temple's treasures. He wasn't the first king to tax subjects harshly, but his methods turned personal. Antiochus himself started as a hostage in Rome, traded for his father's peace. There, he absorbed Greek ways, Roman discipline. Released, he seized the throne from his nephew, a boy king, through cunning and force. Early victories swelled his ego. He invaded Egypt, nearly toppling the Ptolemies. But Rome intervened, drawing a line in the sand, literally, forcing him to retreat. Humiliated, he turned inward. Paranoia set in. He styled himself Epiphanes, God manifest, minting coins with his face as Zeus. To bind his empire, he pushed Hellenization, build Greek cities, adopt Greek gods, blend traditions. In most places, it worked. Merchants embraced the trade networks, locals mixed rituals. But in Judea, it clashed. Jewish leaders split some, like the high priest Jason, built a gymnasium in Jerusalem, where young men exercised naked, aping Greek styles. Others saw it as betrayal. Antiochus exploited the divide, selling the high priesthood to the highest bidder, first Jason, then Menelaus, a Hellenizer who stole temple funds. The system took shape. Local collaborators enforced royal decrees, reporting resistance, collecting taxes. Incentives flowed, land grants for loyalty, death for defiance. It was bureaucracy as weapon, turning neighbor against neighbor. Then came the spark. Around 169 BCE, returning from Egypt empty-handed, Antiochus stormed Jerusalem. Gates opened by his allies inside, he plundered the temple gold altar, lampstands, hidden vaults hauling away riches worth millions in today's terms. Blood flowed, thousands fell in the streets, but that was just the beginning. 2 years later, after another Egyptian setback, he sent his general Apollonius with orders to crush any lingering spirit. The city burned again, walls toppled, a fortress built overlooking the temple. Now the real erasure began. Decrees outlawed circumcision, Sabbath observance, kosher laws. Altars to Greek gods sprouted in villages. Jews faced choices: comply or die. Antiochus's machine hummed overseers, tallied conversions, executed holdouts. Formative wounds fueled him: the Roman humiliation, the need to prove his divinity. He wasn't born a monster. Empire forged him, teaching that weakness invited downfall. And in Judea, he saw weakness in their unyielding faith. But he miscalculated. What happened next would expose the machine's fatal flaw. The sun hung low over Jerusalem that autumn day, casting long shadows across the Temple Mount. Dust from the streets mixed with incense, but the air felt wrong, heavy, tainted. Guards patrolled the gates, their armor clinking like chains. Inside, the Holy of Holies, once veiled in mystery, stood exposed. Antiochus's orders had arrived weeks before, carried by couriers on swift horses: remake the temple as Zeus's shrine. No more daily sacrifices to the Jewish god. Instead, on the 25th of the month, a pig squealed on the altar, its blood defiling the stones. The smell lingered, a deliberate insult, but the king demanded more to break not just the building, but the people. Meet Miriam, a young woman from a priestly family, barely 18, promised in marriage to a scribe from the hills. She had grown up reciting psalms, helping her mother prepare Sabbath meals, dreaming of a life under the law. That morning, she walked to the temple with others, women gathered for purification rites, their veils drawn tight. They didn't know the full decree yet. Whispers spoke of forced offerings, but not this. Soldiers barred the outer court, herding them inward. The king's command, one barked, his accent thick: "You serve now." The choice: submit to the defilement or face the blade. Miriam froze, heart pounding. Around her, cries rose as the horror unfolded. Gentiles reveled, bringing harlots into sacred spaces, their laughter mocking the silence of prayer. The orders, some said, targeted 1,000 virgins' brides-to-be, symbols of purity to shatter taboos, force assimilation through violation. Historians debate the number, estimates varying from hundreds to more, but the intent rang clear: erase lineage, pollute the bloodline. Tension built like storm clouds. The general, his face scarred from battles, read the scroll again. By order of Epiphanes, God manifest, these acts ensure loyalty. Miriam met his gaze, her voice steady: "Our God forbids." A hush fell. She refused, clinging to her faith. The confrontation dragged on, soldiers hesitating, some uneasy with the order's cruelty. Finally, they dragged her forward, but she twisted free, shouting a verse from the scrolls: "The Lord is my strength." Chaos erupted. Others joined her cry. The act itself restrained here, but implied in ancient texts, left scars deeper than flesh. Miriam survived the ordeal, body broken but spirit intact, slipping away in the night. Word spread through hidden networks. The temple profaned, innocence defiled. This wasn't about one woman. This was about a system designed to grind down resistance, using bodies as battlefields. A modern echo? Think of colonial powers forcing cultural erasure, from indigenous boarding schools to enforced marriages, systems that target the vulnerable to control the whole. As news rippled outward, the machine accelerated. Shift now to the view from the throne. Antiochus, in his Antioch palace, reviewed reports. Villages compliant, altars built, conversions tallied, but pockets resisted. In the Judean hills, a priest named Mattathias watched his neighbors bend. Overseers arrived in his town, demanding sacrifice. He refused, slaying a collaborator who stepped forward. "No more," he declared, fleeing to the wilderness with his sons. The escalation spread like wildfire. Decrees hardened: burn the scrolls, kill the circumcised. Women paraded with infants hung from their necks, hurled from walls. Caves hid Sabbath keepers, only to be smoked out and burned. The system showed its gears. Local informants earned rewards, garrisons enforced with iron, numbers blurred into horror, whole families gone. villages emptied. Yet amid the grind, a breather. Picture a quiet evening in the hills, where fugitives shared bread under stars, recalling old stories of deliverance. Irony lingered. The king, who claimed divinity, relied on fear, not devotion. From a survivor's eyes, like an elder who escaped Jerusalem, the shift felt tectonic. He saw the temple's lamps dim, but in hidden gatherings, faith flickered on. The persecution widened, not just the city, but every corner of Judea. Different victims, now farmers forced to eat swine, scholars tortured for scrolls. One brief moment, a mother, unnamed here, watched her sons die one by one, refusing to yield. Her whisper, "Wait for the resurrection." The machine aimed to unify, but fractured instead, breeding rebels. What Antiochus missed, incentives cut both ways. For every collaborator, 10 hardened in resolve. The empire's reach stretched thin, reports delayed by dusty roads, and in that gap, resistance grew. The climax built slowly, time stretching like taut bowstring. Winter winds howled over Jerusalem, the temple, a mockery, Zeus's statue glaring from the altar, harlots' echoes fading into night. Antiochus's orders peaked, total erasure. But in the hills, Mattathias's son Judas, called Maccabeus, the hammer rallied fighters. Guerrilla strikes hit supply lines, ambushed patrols. The system cracked under pressure, overseers fled, garrisons faltered. Antiochus, campaigning east, heard whispers of revolt. His response, more troops, harsher edicts. The breaking point came that December, 3 years into the desecration. Judas's band, outnumbered, stormed the city. Street by street, they fought, swords clashing, fires lighting the night. The air reeked of smoke and blood. At the temple gates, the final push. Guards fell, the citadel besieged. Inside, the profanation ended abruptly, idols smashed, altar cleansed. The act that sealed it, Judas rededicated the sanctuary, lighting lamps with oil that miraculously lasted 8 days. Implication heavy here, the defilements reversed, purity restored. But the crack ran deeper. Antiochus, far away, fell ill, his body racked by disease. Accounts say he confessed. His hubris against the Jews brought this. He died in agony, empire splintering. The revolt didn't end there. Battles raged on, but the temple stood free. What broke? Not just the king, but the illusion of invincibility. Resistance, small at first, toppled the machine. In the wake, Judea breathed. Judas fortified the hills, struck alliances. Antiochus's son, young and advised by regents, sued for peace, lifting the bans. The temple hummed again with sacrifices, feasts restored. Survivors rebuilt, walls rose, scrolls recopied. But scars lingered, families shattered, trust eroded. Power shifted. The Hasmoneans, Judas's kin, ruled as kings and priests, blending Jewish law with Greek tactics. Long term, the empire crumbled. Parthians rose in the east, Rome waited. Ironic twist. The decrees meant to erase the Jews preserved their story in revolt's fire, documents of defiance surviving where orders faded. Centuries later, digs uncovered the echoes. In the Judean desert, a wooden box with silver coins from Antiochus's reign, hidden during flight, tangible proof of the chaos. Excavations at Hellenistic fortresses show burn layers, arrowheads from Maccabean assaults. Jerusalem's walls yield sling stones, stamps from the era. A team in the 2022, sifting Temple Mount debris, found oil lamps from the period, symbols of that miraculous light. Who unearthed them? Archaeologists like those from the Israel Antiquities Authority, piecing together fragments in labs, proving the revolt wasn't myth. These finds, coins bearing Greek gods, destroyed altars, make it real. Human hands touching history. Why matter now? One parallel. Think of modern regimes forcing cultural wipeouts. From Uyghur camps in China to indigenous suppressions, systems using re-education, violation to homogenize. This teaches, power unchecked breeds overreach, but resistance, rooted in identity, endures. The universal truth, erasure fails when memory fights back through stories, stones, unyielding will. Back to that smoke-filled temple, the cries fading. What changed? The shadows lifted, lamps burned bright. Those meant to vanish the defiled, the defiant didn't. Their echoes live in festivals, in digs, in these words. And now they're with you, because you listened. If this moved you, share a thought below. What echoes most? Let the flame endure.